Hi everyone and welcome to the Mix Zone with me, your host, Will Murray. The Mix Zone is going to be the hottest new athletics show on the internet where we're going to talk about everything that's hot in the world of athletics or track and field if you're American. And we've picked the right time to launch the end of the season with no more action to go. But my co-host today is a true legend. She is a mother of two. She represented Perth Harriers at 2 Olympics and 7 World Championships indoors and out. She is the most decorated Scottish athlete of all time, and we'll even let her off with the fact that she's a Hearts fan. It is Eilidh Doyle. Welcome to the Mix Zone, Eilidh.
Hello, thanks for having me.
No worries, glad to have you. So Eilidh, when we came up with the idea of the Mix Zone, what we wanted to do was just have a little bit of a chat about current events in athletics, and we did intend to launch immediately after the Diamond League final in Zurich last week. But as a mark of respect, given the circumstances at home, we've decided to wait a couple of days. But going forward, if we can, availability dependent, we will try to cover as many athletics events as possible as close to when they happen. So Eilidh, how are you feeling today? Excited to be here in the Mix Zone having a chat?
Yeah, I am. Do you know, it's been such a big season, and I just feel like not being an athlete anymore. Like we've come to the end of it, and I feel exhausted from the
Yeah.
season. But now that it's over, I'm like, oh, and you kind of need somewhere to go and just be able to chat about it and discuss it. So I'm glad that we've kind of had this opportunity to like get together and discuss the Diamond League because I feel like, yeah, it's like the end of season slump, and I'm missing it a little bit now. Although I feel drained from the season, so
Yeah.
yeah, I'm glad we're here going to chat about it.
It has been pretty full on, and it's always good to reflect as well because I think we've picked a good opportunity to do it because it gives us a chance to, review what happened in Zurich last week, but also a little bit of a wider reflection on the season as a whole. And as you say, it's been such a busy summer with the World Championships, the Commonwealth Games, and then the European Championships. But actually, the Diamond League is really the World Athletics kind of banner product almost to kind of sell the sport around the world out with the championships. So it's good to give a bit of spotlight to that as well.
Definitely. I mean, the world is the one that everybody kind of concentrates on as well, but I think athletes are all individual and personal. So I think a lot of athletes will have targeted different events this year, and a lot, some will have meant more than the other ones will. Well, obviously for the British athletes because they had three. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's good to kind of like the whole year, and especially now that we're at the end of it, that
Yeah.
actually survived to the end of the season
Yeah.
as well, like injured, be healthy, and got to that final in the Diamond League.
I mean, I think we're all ready for a bit of a break, but we're also probably itching for the kind of indoor meets to start in January as well, because it's always good when that you get through Christmas and then you start to see more meets coming up as we go into the following year.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think like after Christmas, you're like, right, let's get going again. Let's get the indoors going because this is always the kind of the long slog. I think this bit now, and it's like the athletes get to go for their breaks and have time off, and then they start the winter training, and it's that slog of getting back into it.
Yeah.
And yeah, when it comes to indoors, you start getting some nice, sharp, fast performances. So yeah, everybody's kind of ticking and ready to go for the summer. So yeah, like I say, I think it's nice to review a big season, but yeah, before we know it, we'll be looking forward to the indoors.
Yeah, no, definitely. Now, today's focus is on, as I mentioned, the Diamond League finale in Zurich. It was a two-day event that encompassed some street athletics on the Wednesday before the big extravaganza, the main event in the legendary Lexington Stadium in Zurich. Eilidh, first of all, before we go into it, what was your memories of competing in what is probably one of the most iconic athletic stadiums in the world?
Do you know, I was thinking about this today, knowing that we'd be talking about it, and like Zurich is where I won my European title, so it's like my favourite stadium. Kind of close with Hampden is my favourite stadium, but I think
2014, good
yeah.
year.
So that was the year. Like obviously, I competed in Hampden at the Commonwealth Games, then went to Europeans and won it in Zurich. So I think Zurich's definitely my favourite stadium. But what I just realised today was Zurich's actually the track where I ran my last ever 400 hurdles as well before I retired.
Oh,
So I finished this 2018 season and ran the Diamond League final in Zurich, and that was my last hurdle race that year. And then
right.
next year the indoors and that, but yeah, it was my last ever 400 hurdles with Zurich. So I felt like kind of not quite full circle, but kind of a little circle. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Zurich, yeah, is really iconic for me and one of my, I like to say, my favorite stadium.
I was going to say, what a way to kind of bring down the curtain on an iconic 400-meter career, 400-meter hurdles career in the stadium of stadiums. But obviously, you had bigger things on the agenda going into 2019, starting your family.
Yeah.
But yeah, a great location to actually have had one of the highlights of your career, which is the European title that you won in 2014.
Yeah, I think it's not so much the stadium itself. The stadium's incredible, but I think it's the crowds as well. Like the crowds were just like full almost every session, and you
Yeah.
see it in the leagues, like you see it in Zurich, see it in Lausanne. Like the Swiss love their athletics. They've got like loads of athletes. Obviously, they'll be supporting their home athletes, but they just get behind everybody. So, in Zurich was actually one of the very first Diamond Leagues I did outside of the UK ones.
Uh-huh.
Going in 2010, I'd got a last minute kind of lane in 2010, and I went along to it, and I remember just being totally and utterly like gobsmacked by the whole like
Yeah.
event, the busy it was, like the fireworks at the end of it and stuff like that. So yeah, it's just one of those really, really impressive stadiums, but a really, really good atmosphere as well for competing there.
Yeah, I've never been in the stadium myself. I've watched it many, many times on TV, and the thing that gets me is the fact that this crowd seem so close to the athletes. You know, with some of the stadiums, crowds are a little bit further away, but you could probably feel that energy from them right breathing down your neck when you're going down the back straight.
Yeah, definitely. And normally when I've ran there, there's been a Swiss girl in the race. Normally it's been like Sprunger or somebody like that.
Yeah,
So like, they really cheer and roar like you're the whole way round. And yeah, and they're right there at the end, like when you come off the track and you're all kind of enjoying, well, especially when it's the Diamond League final, you're all enjoying the season being over. Like they're
yeah.
all wanting autographs, and yeah, it's just like say a really good atmosphere. So yeah, one of my favorite Diamond Leagues.
Good, good. So before we get into the main action from Thursday, which took place in the stadium, on Wednesday, the World Athletics took us onto the streets of Zurich, where we've seen, you know, Olympic and World Championship champions from the track up close and personal in front of the, you know, the good people of Zurich. Eilidh, just curious to get your view on the whole street athletics thing, in terms of piloting that. And did you yourself ever compete in a street athletics meet?
I did badly.
Oh
the only
no!
the only thing I could really do in the street athletics was 200-meter hurdles, and
Right.
that is not my event
Yeah.
because it's not my event. Like I am not. I'm known for more for my strength,
Yeah. Speed
than my
endurance, yeah.
yeah. So I remember doing it one year, and they were like I think it was actually
Was
20.
it Manchester?
It was Manchester, and it was
Okay.
2015. It was a year after I'd become European champion, and they were like doing a head to head between like me and Kat, and it
Right.
like Kat is gonna like wipe the floor with me. And actually I was alternating legs, so I was doing
Right.
like I can't remember how many strides it would have been. It probably would have been 8, I think. So I was doing left, right.
Uh-huh.
That was like she was tall enough to do 7, so she was just like nailing it the whole way with like one. And she absolutely destroyed. So did Megan Beasley. Like, it was like should have been a head to head between Megan and Kat because they had a really good.
Uh-huh.
As I was like, enjoying the view at the back. So, but I do think street athletics is a really good concept as well. I think
Yeah.
I remember the first time they had it in Manchester. I think Bolt did it actually, and I think to be up that close and see like how fast these guys can run, like and girls can run, I think is really important to like just an appreciation for it. I think when you
Yeah.
watch telly, you think yeah they're running fast, but unless you see it like right up close, and it's the same with like the pole vault, the long jump. You're seeing like the heights that these guys and girls are going over and the
Yeah.
distance they're covering that you can't sometimes really appreciate even in a stadium when you're kind of up in a stand, like when you're right there on it. I think there was one street athletics where I think they actually had a bus set up to show you like the difference between the size of this like double decker bus and the height the girls were going over in the pole vault. So yeah, I definitely think it's a really good advertising for a sport. I think it's really good at getting like the crowds engaged, and yeah, and from other athletes I've spoken to about it, like they've like really thrived. Like I remember talking to Jazz Sawyer about it, like in the long jump, but she just said
Yeah.
like how to really get you going. So yeah, I think it's a there's definitely a place for it.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, for me personally, I think it's a great way to engage younger, more casual fans who may not be at the stage of buying a ticket for a stadium event, but might, really be up for the opportunity to come down and actually watch athletics in their local city.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what ticket charges there are for these types of events, but definitely, I mean, if we were organising one in Glasgow, I would be really, trying to encourage, funded tickets for school kids to come down, local athletics clubs to come down, because particularly for events that maybe aren't what a youngster would aspire to be. I mean, I don't know how many people say, from early doors, I want to be a shot putter or I want to be a pole vaulter. It tends to be something that you learn in school. But I've just picked those events. But actually, on Wednesday, we've seen on that street event Joe Kovacs, who threw I think the second longest shot put of all time, like 23 meters and 23 centimeters, beat the Olympic champion Ryan Krauser. And normally in the kind of busyness of a Diamond League event, that could get lost, but it got real spotlight because it was part of the street athletics meet, which is a great benefit for those types of events.
Well, that's it. You're going there and you're solely watching that event. And I think that's definitely what Diamond Leagues have lost. They've lost with the field events, they've lost the story, they've lost the engagement. They're just kind of showing almost like a highlighted version of it, if they're showing any at all sometimes. Like, you know, so I think for those people that are actually physically there, they're watching it, they can get right into it. And then I think because, like you say, it was one of the only things that was on the Wednesday night. So again, you're getting more of that story there. And yeah, it's like people get invested. And I think that's what is lacking, you know, and especially in those field events, is like you want to follow the journey. You want to follow, like, you know, where did they jump in the first one? Like, where did they come? What, you know, what has their season been like? And yeah, you just don't seem to get that in when it's like the main 2 hour sort of segment that they show.
And I think it is difficult because, you know, for example, if you're doing live coverage and you're the anchor, you're doing, you know, if you're Jeanette Kouachi, who has been an absolute revelation this year, I just want to say, Jeanette, absolutely iconic coverage.
Yes.
But it's your responsibility to take the casual viewer on a bit of a journey and make sure they understand what's happening on the track. And there's not always the opportunity there's not enough time to do that with the field events as well, particularly as, you know, some people come out the gates, you know, big jump in the first round or a big throw in the first round, and then kind of can take it easy, whereas some other people gradually build up, and it's that crescendo when you get to the 5th and 6th rounds that actually can be really exciting to watch if you've got the time to cover it.
Yeah, well, that's it. And you know what? It's a difficult one because I get as well that you don't want big lulls within like athletics events. So it's quite nice when it's like and you're getting event after event after event. But I think, yeah, there needs to be like that there needs to be the dedication to the like the field event or whatever the event is that's kind of need a story. And yeah, I totally agree with you. Like for the ones that are like anchoring it, like Jeanette, like I saw firsthand what it's like when you're sitting there and things are getting like shouted at you and you're like, we're going here, we're going there, and you're like trying to get your head around like who's doing what. And then
you need to be like a swan where you know it's all smiles and relaxed up front, but actually underneath you're like, right, okay, we need to keep this going here.
Yeah, and then obviously you're wanting to highlight, you know, the home athletes, you know, and if we don't have any British athletes in, say, the men's, you know, shot put or something like that, then it's like how much time do you spend on that? But I think just every event needs to have the opportunity to be able to be shown well and shown, because ultimately, like, the essence of track and field is the essence of it. Like, it's about
competition.
And yeah, it's like you don't need to really change the game too much. You know, you saw that at the Commonwealth Games, the amount of crowds that were there. People just want to see good athletics. But yeah, I think there's definitely fine tuning to be done and how best to kind of show that. But
I definitely think the street events are a real way to kind of, I suppose, supplement the kind of core Diamond League events, but give that opportunity to spotlight some of the events that don't always get the spotlight during that 2 hour segment in the stadium, as you say. As I mentioned, highlight for me was Joe Kovacs, but I also enjoyed seeing Gianmarco Tamberi, who won the high jump. I think Gianmarco had COVID early in the summer, and it impacted his performance in the Worlds at Eugene. But definitely great to see him jumping well over 230 again.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's just such a great like character for the sport as well. Like, again, somebody who you want to watch, you want to see. I mean, and that's the thing. Like, he's obviously somebody who everybody remembers, and you know, from Tokyo when he shared the gold medal. And it's like people know him now, so it's like they're looking for him, they're wanting to see him, and yeah, like I say, he had COVID, so great that he could be back. And I actually had him at the World Champs. I'm really into like the fantasy athletics league just now.
Right, okay.
I never was an athlete, and I had him at the World Champs as well. So yeah, I was devastated.
Do you know what? I've not done the fantasy athletics thing, but I keep meaning to do it every summer. So maybe next summer we can do it together and cover how we're getting on, basically.
It's a good way to be invested, like, and have interest in other events that you might not have been as interested in before. Like, see somebody who you're like, oh, that's the person who I've got down for this. I want how they get on, and so I think it's good from that point of view as well.
Right, so let's move on to the kind of main event, right? The stadium segment on Thursday. And I don't know about you, but I needed a drink on Thursday after I watched it, and I need another drink tonight because there was so much. It was so drama filled, and even just re-watching the highlights tonight, I was like, I need another glass of wine for this.
Yeah.
And it was a bit of a one-off because We had almost every single event. Now, we don't have enough time to cover them all tonight. And I feel like we have given the the field events that took place on Wednesday some spotlight, and we'll cover a couple of field events in the kind of forthcoming segment that we're going to cover. But I want to kind of focus on some of the kind of banner track events at the moment. Some of the big ticket stories for the year that kind of culminated in Zurich, but also some of the kind of big stories from a British perspective as well. But I'm just going to start with the sprints. Best place to start. And first of all, I just want to give a massive shout out to Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce, who ran 10.65 on Thursday night, having come back from her first loss of the season in Brussels following a slight hamstring niggle. But what a legendary season. 8 times she's run 10.70 or faster. After having a child, and also after a bitterly disappointing Olympic silver last year behind Elaine Thompson. Do you want to just talk a little bit about, how you've been able to observe someone that was a contemporary of yours, actually, who's now, setting new standards for the women's 100 metres?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of Shelley. I just think she's brilliant, and just everything like she kind of represents as well. And I remember watching her in 2019 at the World Champs, and that was the first Champs I'd missed because I was pregnant. And then watching her like just run amazingly, but then have her wee boy there, and then talk about going away and having a baby. And I remember just like I was quite hormonal. Oh my God, if she can do it, I can do it. Like, she's really great. But yeah, I mean, just so consistent, I think with Shelly-Ann, if she's there and she's like she's healthy, like she's almost unbeatable, really.
Yeah.
She probably is, really, I think, especially over the 100 meters. But I think just it's the consistency over the years, and I don't really know if she gets the credit that she deserves for that. And I think they said last night it was like her 5th Diamond League title as well. Like, I think just to not only be able to have that at the champs, but to be able to have that consistency. And it used to be with the Diamond Leagues that you had to, get all the points as you went through. It wasn't just based on that last performance. So I think just that consistency over the years, and to still be dominating, the way she is. I mean, she made Sharika Jackson like
pedestrian.
Yeah, what did she still run, like 10, 8
I think Jackson ran 10-1, yeah. But for me, just to go back to the point that you made about how she's been able to deliver on the big stage over so many years, is like when it comes out of that one moment and to not have an ounce of stage fright at any point and still manage to consistently run either a season's best or close to a season's best. For me, I think it comes out of that kind of mental preparation as well, because she says the 100 meters is such a technical event and you need to execute, the way you've planned in practice, but you also need to be able to have that competitive appetite to really push yourself and not be daunted for the big occasion. And I think it's one of those things where, for me, one thing I was keen to get your thoughts on is, pushing on from Tokyo, right, where we've seen Elaine Thompson won, Shelly-Ann was bitterly disappointed to come second. But what's happened in the following year is we've seen Thompson have a little bit of I don't want to say a lull because she still had a successful year, but a little bit of a kind of come down from the form of 2021. Whereas we've seen Shelly-Ann take that disappointment and actually elevate what she's been able to deliver over the season. What's your assessment of why that's went in 2 different directions for 2 different sprinters?
I think it's just the mark of, I mean,
I'm having a sip of wine for this one.
Yeah, I think you're taking into account as well that if there's, how people's winters have gone, how, how if there's been niggles and injuries there, then that always kind of plays a part. And again, like you say, that'll play a part on the mindset as well. If you're stepping onto a track thinking, I've maybe missed a little bit that I should have been doing because of a niggle, or I've lost out on a little bit here, I can't afford to lose out on anything against these girls because they're such high caliber. And all that mindset comes into play as well. And I think you learn a lot about real, true champions and true athletes from how they get over disappointment.
Yeah.
Yes, it's great when you win all the time, and you can, athletes like Bolt, who just consistently was winning and dominating, and you just think, well, he's just this incredible athlete. But actually, it's when you see athletes who, the result doesn't go their way, how they then come back from that. What did they because really ultimately, it sounds a bit cliche, you do learn a lot more from the races that didn't go your way than you do from the ones that did. Like, because when it goes your way, it's like, well, good, everything went to plan, that's what I wanted to happen. Whereas when they don't, that's when you have to go back to the drawing board. That's when you have to have those difficult conversations with coaches and your team to say, right, what do we do there? What do we need to do now to then go forward and improve. So yeah, it's just a mark of somebody of like I say, of Shelly-Ann's caliber of that championships. And again, I don't think Elaine particularly, came off Tokyo and thought I can just sit back. I think, it's been difficult for her, again, with that high of having that success to then, right, okay, head back down, need to start training harder to then go on to the next season. So yeah, it is probably a lot of the mindset there, as well as sort of the physicalities and the,
I think sometimes when you're pushing your body to the limit, if one little bit of your body breaks down, it can have a serious impact on, that momentum that you've got. I remember, to take it away to another sport, but kind of bring it back to Scotland, Andy Murray said, after that 2016 season where he won Wimbledon, he won the Olympics, he got to #1, I think he pushed his body to such a limit that he almost was, it started to break down the following year, and he almost was, mentally exhausted from putting himself through that as well. Elaine Thompson had such a fantastic 2021. It's going to be difficult to repeat that. But I feel like with Shelly-Ann, her body's in such a groove of summer, rest, winter training, back to the summer. I'm actually really confident she's going to be just as good next year.
Yeah. Do you know what? You can't beat just getting consistent good years in year, consistent good winters. And especially, someone who's slightly, I wouldn't say she's slightly older than the rest of the field, but I'd say like she's somebody who's got a lot of experience there and a lot of like training and winters in her legs that she'll know. Like she'll be so in tune with her body as well. She'll know like when it's time to maybe, take a wee step back, or when it's time to really push on too. And I think that's again the mark of a good professional athlete, like knowing when to say, right, let's push on, and knowing when to say, actually, okay, my body needs a little bit of rest and recovery here. And
what she did by missing Lausanne, because she knew she had a bit of a niggle.
Yeah, exactly. And then she did that, I mean, because she missed the 200 in Doha, didn't she? Not that obviously the 200, she obviously prefers the 100 anyway, but I remember her, after she won the 100 in Doha, she was like, you know what, I'm going to be focused on the Olympics next year, so I'm not going to go for another medal, I'm just going to stop there. And yeah, like I think that takes a lot of confidence, a lot of guts, a lot of faith in your team and yourself. So yeah, it's just again a mark of an athlete of that high caliber.
Props to you, Shelly-Ann, and I just want to kind of come back to what you said earlier, Eilidh, about coming back from disappointments. I actually think, just to kind of get back to the kind of British interest, I don't think it's been necessarily the most ideal year for either Dina or Darrow in the way they wanted it, but I actually think that Dina bouncing back from the bitter disappointment of Tokyo and running 10:83 in 21:96, even if Munich didn't go the way she wanted and she had to pull out of Birmingham, it's still a really, really strong year and a great performance from Dina. And to medal in an individual event in the women's sprints at the moment on the global stage is, that's a fantastic achievement. I'm looking forward to seeing what they're both going to do next year.
Yeah, it's huge. And I think the problem is not the problem, I suppose, but your expectations now are so much higher. So like, won her medal in Doha, first medal in Doha, it was like this massive, thing, and everybody was going crazy. And I think we just taken for granted how good she is, that we just expected to be able to turn up on the track and go and do what she does. And 9 out of 10 times she will, because she is that good. But it's like, it just shows you when you're putting your body through so much, and you're always at that high end, of training, and you're always kind of on that knife edge of pushing it too much. It's like the slightest little niggle, the slightest little cramp or discomfort, like it just becomes, devastating in an event like 100 or 200 meters. So yeah, I think we just don't forget how good she is and how far she's come. Well, like I think, like I say, we kind of just have a bit of an expectation on her now as well, and now because Dina's done so well on the world stage, we now put that expectation on Darrell now, because it's like, right, well, Darrell's going to come along, and she obviously beat Dina at the British Champs, so it's like, oh right, well, she's going to go there, and you just kind of expect people to win races and win medals, but there's a lot more to that, and especially in an event like the 100 meters where it's like such fine margins. So yes,
and I think navigating rounds as well, looking at, if I'm running this fast in the semi, how do I get that incremental improvement in the final rather than having a bit of a dip? That's something that a lot of sprinters, they learn over time as you kind of navigate rounds in more championships.
Definitely, definitely. It's a lot of that is mindset as well. Like, you know, it's that, you know, it's, I mean,
What do you do with that hour and 45 minutes or whatever you get? You know, how do you stay warm? How do you kind of go, that was a great semi, but just box it off and on to the final? Because
yeah,
actually, if you have a great run in the semi, it's natural that you're going to have a bit of a kind of a bit of a buzz, you know,
yeah.
but you don't want to expend any energy as well.
Yeah, because and you sometimes see that a lot with athletes, like they'll smash it in the semi-final. Like they might, you know, if, like in my event, they might like, you know, get into the top two and automatically qualify and smash their PB, and then they go into that final and they, you know, they don't get near it, or they have a real lull. And it's that like just that high of, oh man, I've done it, I'm in the final, I'm going to go out there and yeah, like I say, there's so many elements to it. It's not just straightforward that you've ran this time that you're going to go be able to replicate that, you know, straight away. Now, I mean, we had a day off normally in the hurdles, so to do
Yeah.
it an hour and 45 minutes later is something else.
Right, to bring it back to Zurich, I want to touch on the men's and women's 200 metres because both Sharika Jackson, who we mentioned, and Noah Lyles have put together two of the greatest 200-metre seasons of all time this year. But for
Yeah.
me, what I'm interested in is they've done it in very different ways. Jackson kind of tends to go about her business very quietly. She's very unassuming. She's almost happy to be like Shelly Ann's gal pal and teammate, but without kind of taking the spotlight herself. Lyles is like completely opposite and is like, I am front and center. I'm ready to be the face of this sport, and I really want to get some media attention and, you know, stoke some, I suppose, controversy around rivalries, etc. What's your take on both, and what do you make of what they've done this season?
Well, I like both because I relate to Shrika Jackson more because that would be the sort of athlete I would be. I wouldn't be the type of
Are
athlete
you
that
sure? I remember you called. No, I'm kidding.
I think we'll go with it. I think I mean you know I would just be a type of athlete that would just kind of want to just get on with it and kind of you know keep your head down, train hard, and hopefully go and have success on the track. I am in no way comparing myself to her success because, like I say, she is like you know a phenomenal
Well, she's
athlete.
redefining what's possible. One, two, and four, isn't it?
We have no other similarities apart from maybe the fact that we would both be quite quiet and just want to get on with it. But in terms of actual medals, talent, and speed, then yeah, we are very, very different. But again, I like Noah Lyles. I like that personality. I like that being out there. I think the sport needs people like that. They need personalities. But I like the fact that he is like that, but he also can do it on the track.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so
Hmm.
he's not just out there saying things. He's out there and he's going on performing and, you know, doing things on the track at the same time. So I think, yeah, you need to be able to speak on both. You know, you need to be able
Yeah.
to yes, talk a good game, but talk it on the track as well. So I appreciate, I appreciate both. I like I say, I can relate more to Jackson's approach, but I think we need people like Noah Lyles in the sport to yeah draw attention to it and have these characters who we want to, you know, we're drawn into. We want to kind of see them compete.
Yeah, and the good thing about Jackson is, unlike you know, a few other Americans, he's actually came over to Europe and he's done quite a few races, and he's you know been producing. I think he ran 19.51 on Thursday, which is
Mhm.
still an amazing time.
Yeah.
Um, I just know that he's going to be going into the winter going, I know that I just need perfect conditions and a really, really good competition, and he can get hopefully as close, if not under 1919 next year.
Yeah, do you know, I kind of query the where they were in the timetable, the 200 meters, because not query it. I just think they were probably a bit unlucky because I feel like it was maybe getting a bit cooler towards the end of
Yeah,
the night. I kind of feel if they were maybe on a bit earlier or more in the middle of the schedule, they might have actually ran like quicker.
yeah.
I'm not sure because I wasn't there and I don't even really spoke too much about the temperature being all that bad, but I just kind of think sometimes when you're drawn towards the end of that evening, it can sometimes feel a bit cooler.
Yeah.
But I understand why they're on last because you kind of have those events as well that you want to kind of keep the crowds in. So not that Zurich ever has that problem, but yeah, I did wonder. I wonder if they were been on earlier, they might have run slightly faster.
Sure. Well, we'll no doubt be in for a bunch of fast times again next year from both of those guys. Going to move on to the 400. Now, this wasn't your main event, but you were you know a really really strong 400-meter indoor runner, and of
Yeah.
course an absolutely legendary relay runner as well. And I know you have an interest in this. First of all, with the men, Kirani James won the A race in 44:26, but actually what caught my attention more was Wade Van Niekerk won the B race in
Oh, yeah.
44:39, right?
Yeah.
Now you were, you know, kind of on the circuit and in the champs during Wade's kind of 3 to 4 year, almost like purple patch.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you know, kind of different things, a kind of freak knee accident and other health conditions have meant he's kind of had a 3 or 4 years out of the limelight now.
Yeah.
What's your observations on whether he can actually come back into, I suppose, medal and gold medal contention for the next 2 years up the Olympics?
Look, definitely, yes. I think that's it. I think it's, again, it comes down to a lot of it is getting back mindset. I think mindset's probably the biggest battle, because he has been out for it for so long, and then it's coming back and having that sort of what's the word? Having that kind of humility to go and race guys that you would have, wiped the floor with before. It's coming back and starting at a very different starting point, and being able to just keep plugging away and knowing that this will come, so having a season where you're not going to be right up there, but you're just kind of getting it, you're slowly knocking off bits of that season's best and getting there. And I think that's it. I think that's the battle. And I don't know him. I just, watching him compete, I think he's that sort of athlete that he wouldn't be fazed by that. I think he just goes and gets on with his business, and it's like, he'll go there and he'll run his race, and he'll take something away from that and he'll build on to that again. So yeah, I think definitely physically, if he can stay, like I say, not have any of those wee niggles and just ongoing problems, if he can stay physically healthy, and there's definitely he can do that. I always remember when he ran in Rio, and it was really funny, because everybody had been talking about the track in Rio and saying like, oh, the track's slow, it's a slow track, like no one's running really fast. And then he went out and broke the world record. Everyone's like, it's a fast track. Like, opinion completely changed of it. So yes.
I think the weather seemed to be all over the place in Rio as well, though. So it wasn't really sure what conditions you were going to get, and that would obviously impact your times, eh?
Yeah. So yeah, I think, well, definitely he's got the ability to. It's just whether, I know he has a bit of luck on his side as well. Like that'll play into it, and but again, if he's the mindset of an Olympic champion, a world record holder, is strong enough, hopefully.
He
To
just needs a healthy winter. Moving on to the women's, what was interesting was Paulino ran 48.99, which is the first sub 49 clock in this year, but it was a little bit of a kind of, suppose, not quite as competitive on the women's side as what we've seen previously. But mainly due to the fact that a lot of the bigger names seem to be running other events. So we've got Paulino doing 48.99, Miller ran 49.1 in Eugene. But actually, what a lot of people are excited about is going into next year, could potentially we see Sydney McLaughlin and Femke Ball put a bit more attention on it, the flat 400, and with Nasser coming back, what would that look like for Shawnee Miller seemingly having this, unassailable #1 position? It actually looks like she might have more competition going into next year.
Yeah, I really want to see a head-to-head with her and McLaughlin. I think, judging by what they'd said on I think it was Steve Crampton in the commentary, I think they'd asked Femke about whether she would do the 400. I think she basically said, no, I love the hurdles. That's kind of, where my heart is, sort of thing. Yeah. So I don't know if she'll concentrate too much on it. But I think, judging from what McLaughlin said, she's kind of like done everything she can in the 400 hurdles. So why not go and see what you can do in the 400 flat? I think that would be a really good head-to-head.
And if it doesn't work out, she can still run the hurdles in Paris, right?
Well, that's it.
She's got next year.
Hurdles out, and if she runs 50 points, she still could make the. I think our time was going to be good enough to make the final of the world. So, it's. I mean, that's the thing. If she can run that over hurdles, like, what can she do over flat? And sometimes it doesn't translate that way, because sometimes you do just get really fast flat runners who can't quite translate it over to the hurdles. But I don't think you ever see it the other way around, where you get somebody who's really fast over the hurdles who can't obviously translate it into the flat. Sure. So I think, and then obviously she has translated over to flat already. Like, you've seen her run fast, and you've seen her run some incredible wheelie legs as well. So yeah, if she decides that that's going to be her focus, then it'll be a very exciting event with everything going on there. So yeah.
I wonder if the fact that obviously, Sydney's very, very marketable. She's got a massive audience in America. She hasn't really come over at the Diamond League as much, and kind of not raced in Europe. So I don't know if her profile, other than being, a world record holder, is as big as some of the kind of other Americans that have come over and put the time in over here. But she might be at the point now where she's like, I've achieved all I can in the 400 hurdles. If I go in the 400, I got the opportunity to, I suppose, do something that no one else has done. which is having, world record and, Olympic champion, world champion in one event. And I don't think anybody's done both across the 400 and the 400 hurdles in the past. There's been 2 and 4 doubles. There's been, 8 and 15 doubles, but we've never seen this before.
Yeah, no, I don't know that I can think of anyway. You need to get somebody who's good at their stats. But I think as well, I'd really actually be interested to chat to McLaughlin actually and find out like how she bases her season, because she doesn't come on to do the Diamond League circuits really. You don't ever really see her on the Diamond League circuits.
Maybe she doesn't like traveling.
Yeah, and is that it? Is it like is that a reason for it? And I'd really want to be intrigued to kind of see how she plans out her season, and because then, yeah, it's like she didn't even race, like, because a lot of time you race the Diamond Leagues before the major champs to race these girls or just to kind of get into good competition, and I suppose she probably doesn't need it because she just has to really run her own race. But yeah, I'd be really intrigued to kind of have a conversation with her and just be like, how do you work your schedule around? What do you base it on and stuff like that. So that's just me being a bit of a.
Well, I mean, if you're working at World Athletics and the Diamond League is the product that's kind of selling the sport around the world, you'd be like, right, okay, well, this is a star here, this is a record breaker, this is someone that we want lining up in Lausanne, in Rome, and all of that, all those great venues, and someone you want lining up against, even if she doesn't do the hurdles all the time, if you get her in a 400 flat. It's going to create such a buzz and such a level of interest in the Diamond League events as well.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like I say, it might be a traveling thing, or it might just be, I don't know, no interest in it.
Maybe she's just too good for the Diamond League. Right, let's move on to the 800, men's and women's. Big British interest in these events. Now, first of all, I just want to kind of highlight the fact that Jake Whiteman came third in 800. He chose to go for the 800 rather than the 1500. But obviously, an unbelievable achievement in Eugene becoming world champion in the 1500, and obviously the viral moment with his dad Jeff as well. One of the great stories of the year. What I realised when I just checked the kind of top list was actually not only is Jake, won the world title at 1500, he's actually one of the top 5 fastest for the year at the 800, which is, I don't want that to go unnoticed. And what does that mean for his chances of doubling up next year?
I don't think people appreciated how fast he ran that 800 until they realised it was like the Scottish record. It was Tom McKean's
the one
record.
In Brussels.
Yeah, that he broke. Yeah. I think, and then I think people like Jake won the medal at the Commonwealth Games, the last Commonwealth Games over in the 800 meters in the Gold Coast. When he's bronze. So, and I think he sometimes gets a little bit, I wouldn't say offended, but I think when people say he's a 500 meter runner, I think he just says, no, I'm an 8 and a 500
distance runner.
But I feel like he probably needs to say he's a 500 meter runner now that he is the world champion. But yeah, I mean, he's just having such a fantastic season. I think to be able just to like, have the choice to pick the event, and be world class in both. I think is just exceptional. But yeah, I think that 800 speed is just so crucial for his 1500 meters as well. I think that's it. I mean, you kind of get it a little bit with people say oh, you're quite a good 400 meter runner, and it's like, well, I have to be because I'm running 400 meter hurdles. So if I'm not good over 400 meters, then the majority of my race is not going to be very good. So I think it's the same for the middle distance guys. Like, they need to still be able to have a good turn of pace, to be able to deal with those kicks and that, especially in the 1500 meters, especially when you're up against guys like Ingo Brixton. So yeah, it's been a phenomenal season for Jake, and he's world class, like I say, over 800.
Absolutely looking forward to seeing what happens at the Sports Personality of the Year. For the women's, right, so just one race too many for Keely, I think, but still a fantastic season. If you were Keely, Jenny Meadows has spoken about going into the winter last year thinking about Athling Mo, how she can beat her was a big motivation. Would you be just thinking about Athling Mo, or would you be thinking how much better can Mary Mora get as well?
Again, from my point of view, I never used to think about rivals. I would just be like, how can I get me better?
Well, you've got 10 hurdles to think about, never mind your rivals.
So many more rivals than just 2.
You've got 10.
So I would have been standing on the start line about to run a rep, thinking about a million other athletes to like, oh, she's a rival. So yeah, I think yes, she probably will be, but I think she just got to be like, I was so much closer to Athing this year as well.
Yeah.
Like, and I've been able to do 3 championships and medal at 3. And and probably what she'll do more is look at her races, look at her final at the Commonwealth Games, look at her final at the World Champs as well, and just be like, right, where can I fine tune? Where can I make adjustments? I think one of the things that Trevor and Jenny have said about Keely is her racing mind, her racing brain is what they've not actually had to really teach her that. Like she's just got that. So I think it'll just be again about staying healthy, staying injury free, and just building on what they built on already. I think sometimes athletes can get caught up when they have success. They become a gold medalist, or they become a world champion, or whatever, and they think, right, I'm world champion. How do I get better? And it's like, no, you become world champion. So now you whatever you did to get there is working. Let's kind of build on that and carry on with that. And I think with Keely, you're seeing that progression, you're seeing her build, and it's just about keeping that going, really.
Yeah, I think for me, what's been great to see with Keely is she's been delivering for Team GB in terms of medals, and committing to all 3 championships, which she didn't need to do. But she's also delivering for athletics as a sport, because she's committed to doing those Diamond League events as well. And I know that forms part of her training, but that helps promote, she's a really attractive, bubbly, fun, young athlete that actually young girls that are like, thinking about going down to a local track, if they look at Keely, they're like, yeah, I can do that. She kind of looks like me a little bit. And she seems to be someone that's really fun and outgoing as well. So it's a really good advert for the sport, which we need. And the fact that it comes with rivalries of athletes from different parts of the world is really exciting for the next couple of years.
I think so, and I think she's got a really good sense of humor as well. I think you probably don't see a lot of it, but I think she's quite dry, and I think the nice thing about her as well when she gets interviewed is she's brutally honest.
Yeah.
When she was second at the Commonwealth, she was like, oh, for goodness sake, it's like another silver. Like, and she wasn't trying to be like, oh, like, I'm really happy to get another medal. It's like, nah. But, and I think, the audience and the spectators appreciate that as well. Like, there's that human side of she is gutted. But yeah, like you say, I think the competitiveness across, across globally, you're hoping that the competitiveness within the UK as well will keep plugging away too. I think, if
good opportunity to mention Gemma Reekie. It was a tough year this year, but I know she's had, I think, glandular fever, which can knock you for 6.
Exactly, and Gemma is still a 4th place athlete from Tokyo Olympics. So it's like if Gemma can get a nice, solid, healthy winter as well and come out off and firing next season, then make that domestic rivalry really interesting again, and then that can only push them both on globally too. Again, like I remember that with Perry and I, like I knew at my trials that I had to be at the top of my game to get near Perry. And if you've got that in your own country, like it just doesn't make you complacent, and it means that when you go and race the best girls in the world, you're like, well, I raced one of the best girls in the world, at my champ. At home. And so it's not as daunting. So I think it'll be hopefully another really exciting year for the 100 meters as well.
Sure. I'm just conscious of time. I really wanted to keep this within an hour, but no doubt we could go on all night, right? But just a couple more events I want to pick up on. Let's talk about the 1500, because Ingebrigtsen and Kipyegon both won. Obviously, Ingebrigtsen is, he has been a dominant force in the 1500, but whether he's number 1 for the year is up for debate. He didn't get the gold medal in Eugene, but Kipyegon, there's no doubt that she is, world champion, but the clear number 1 in that event. Again, for Laura, maybe just one race too many. She has put in a shift this year, so props to you, Laura.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's the physical, like Laura's a beast, really. Like physically, Laura can, she just comes out and she turns these races out, and I know she trains so hard as well. Like as is all the athletes, don't get me wrong. But I think that will have been a real emotional year for Laura as well. I think a real mental battle. I think, having got the medal at the Worlds, and then, she wanted to get that Commonwealth one because that was one she didn't have. And then to be able to come to the Europeans and retain her title. It's a lot mentally as well as physically. So, I think you're allowed at the end of the season just to go and run, make a bit of money. Don't worry much about those results, because like I say, the champs are the ones that ultimately matter.
And Laura will have a little bit of extra competition, not from a Team GB perspective, but Cara McGeehan has really come on the end of the season as well. And so from a European perspective, that's another rival for Laura to think about beyond the global champs as well.
Yeah, really exciting and really just amazing from her. Like I think you've seen that progression, you've seen like just that confidence in her racing. But I think in Brussels, like just to that was I think that was the first time she's gone sub 4. So to really just annihilate, 4 minutes and smash Sonia Sullivan's record is just fantastic. And then you can just see going into Zurich, there was that added confidence again to be like, right, I'm here, I'm going to maneuver myself to this position and that position because I can compete with these girls.
Absolutely.
Yeah, really exciting from her.
So I wanted to touch upon the sprint hurdles, but I'm going to come to your event first of all because I want to give this the dedicated time it deserves.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, fantastically decorated Scottish athlete, and probably very few people can come on and assess the event as well as you, Eilidh. Femke Ball didn't even break the 53 seconds. What is going on? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. What does it say about the event that 53 seconds is like, oh, well, she ran 53 seconds?
I know, and I think like the top 3 or 4, I don't know. I think Mohammed was sub 54 as well. I think the top 4 were all sub 54 seconds. And you're looking at that going, it wasn't quite, what it has been. And this is just the way the event has moved on. It's the way the sport's moved on as well. Like, it's very, very different in terms of standards, in terms of times now. You could see with Femke there, it was just that she never really ever makes mistakes. I don't think I've ever really seen her make many mistakes, but you just saw her kind of coming into that last hurdle, didn't quite take it that well, kind of popped up over it. And then it's just once you kind of lose that momentum a little bit, then it's hard to kind of get it back. And you just saw her kind of almost like, she always looks so happy when she crosses the line, but you almost kind of sort of screw up her face to say, all right,
She's probably like, I'm ready for a holiday now. She's ran so many races.
It's been a hell of a season, for her. I was thinking the same with Claver and the 400 as well. Like, it's to kind of go to the world champs and have the relays there as well as the individuals, and then go to Europeans and double up and have the relays as well. It's a lot, again, physically, a lot mentally, and then you're trying to get yourself geared up and back to get on the circuit again, when really probably the only thing you want to do is have a break and enjoy the season, enjoy everything you've achieved. So yeah, I think that was just a little inkling to have her to say like, right, yeah, I'm done now. But she still won and she still ran 53 low.
I want to ask you, so World Athletics is a brand which has got the World Athletics Championships, etc. But actually underneath that, European Athletics is also a brand in itself. You've got European Indoors, you've got European Athletics, etc. How important and how big, an asset is an athlete like Femke Ball to that European Athletics brand? Because it's athletes like her that really promote the sport in the European circuit.
Yeah, massive. I think if you just have athletes that are really going there and breaking these barriers and just are just phenomenal, then it can only be a good thing. I think again it's a balance, because it's you don't want to go and watch an athlete just dominate and just win all the time. Like, you want good races, you want exciting races, and I think that's what she's brought as well by doing both too. But I think you kind of want to just again, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket and put everything on the athlete. But I think if you've got you've got athletes across the board who are not just good in European terms but are good global, good, then it can only be good for the brand. It can only draw in attention and give the sport more exposure.
Sure. Just very quickly, I know that we gave the field events a good bit of focus in terms of the street event, but I have to say my highlight of the field this year from a Diamond League perspective has been getting rid of the sudden death shootout, because it's actually meant that people that do well in the first 5 jumps aren't getting penalised. Again, we had some really good performances from Rocast, from Mondo. We don't have enough time to talk about them, unfortunately, because I think the recording is going to stop after an hour, so we've got a minute left. But I suppose in terms of reflections on this season and looking ahead to next season, what are you most excited about for next season?
I think I'm just looking forward to some good head-to-heads, really. I think from a British perspective, I think the confidence of the British team is really shot on. So I think we'll see a lot of British athletes next year really stepping up again. I think just the success from the World Championships and the medals that were won there, I think the volume of the team that went to the Europeans, I think a lot of the athletes will learn a lot of the Commonwealth Games because it was a home champs. I know it was obviously in England, but it felt like a home champs for everybody. I remember everybody said that about Glasgow as well. I think when you compete in front of a crowd like that, gives you a real taste for it, of I want more of this. So I think we'll see some real stepping up next year from athletes that perhaps we're not expecting. You know, I think we'll have all the ones that we always expect to do well, but I think we'll have some other athletes.
New talent emerging, yeah.
So say I've not answered that question. I'd say I'm looking forward to the British perspective next year, and the athletes kind of stepping up their game next year for the team.
100%. And then last but not least, obviously this is the first time we've spent in the mix zone online. Would you come back?
Definitely. I mean, I've just ranted on like a lot longer than I needed to, so I've not even covered half the event. So yeah,
we haven't. And it's one of those ones where I could see it said 5 minutes left in your meeting, but it's because I've just realised we went past an hour and we've not been kicked out. It's because I had put the Outlook invite in for an hour and I thought, oh my God, we're going to get kicked out. But we're not. We're still here. But what we'll do is we'll try and wrap it up anyway, although we could probably go on all night.
Well, that's it. I know. Now that I don't talk about it, I just want to talk about it all the time. So,
well, what we'll do is we will have a think about what else is coming up. Obviously, the athletes are going into their hopefully well-earned holiday period. Then from, you'll know better than me, but maybe late October, early November, starting to get their sessions going for the winter season, training again. But it's been lots of fun. There's probably another couple of things that we can do over the coming months to look ahead into next year. But yeah, thanks very much for joining me in the mix zone. Look forward to doing it again over the winter, no doubt. I think there's a couple of meetings on at the Emirates Arena in Glasgow that we can maybe try and get down in person as well, which would be quite interesting. And yeah, thank you so much for joining me in the mix zone, Eilidh, and I look forward to chatting again.
Definitely, sounds good.